Today we're going to be making another tier list, and this time we are looking at 2010s rap album releases, the hip-hop releases of the 2010s decade. We're looking at some of the biggest, the most exciting, the most influential, perhaps some of the most disappointing and not so good albums as well, as you would expect from tier lists, and also perhaps some of the most overlooked albums. As you know, I love to bring in the gems, the hidden gems, the undiscovered gems on this channel, and there's plenty of those in the rap of the 2010s decade, so stick around to see how it all lines up. We're looking at 64 of them. This could be a long friggin' video, so pack in, sit tight, get yourself strapped in, I don't even know what I'm saying, and enjoy the list. As always, please click the link so you can make your own tier list. Send it me over on Twitter, Instagram, blah 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 blah, wherever you follow me on. I'd love to see how your rankings come out, and please comment and let me know if I'm wrong, how right I am. That would be great to know how right I am, you know. And yeah, please subscribe, check out my Patreon as well, because you can request videos like this in the future if you would like to see more and make your own requests. I hope you're enjoying these tier lists, because I have plenty more ideas to come in the future. There's so many more that I could do, and I've got so many ideas to keep these going, and I just have a lot of fun making them. So if you enjoy watching them as much as I enjoy making them, then that would be amazing, because they're going to keep going, they're going to be a mainstay, and I'm hoping people like them. Let's get into it though. I don't want to waste anyone's time here because there's a lot to get through. So like I say, got 64 albums here, going to rank them in a tier list. There may not be, you know, every album ever. I might have missed a few off, but I've tried keeping it as relevant and tried to encapsulate as much as I possibly could here. So hopefully you can understand that. I'm pushing you a little bit further back, and I'm going to get my laptop here and starting with the 21 Savage releases from the 2010s. And you know what? I think it's fair to say they're both pretty decent to good. Obviously, Without Warning is a Metro Boomin, Offset, blah, 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 blah. I think these are pretty good. I don't know if they're ones that I'm going to go back to as much as some other ones from this decade, but I did think it was, particularly I Am, I Was a good turning point for 21, because I don't think his solo stuff was that great for quite a while, but I think he turned it around with this one, some really good tracks. And yeah, the Metro Boomin 1, 2 might be slightly better actually. I'm going to swap these around, might be slightly better. I'll try and order them as well so that it makes sense. ASAP Rocky, I'm going to put it in very good. Yeah, super influential mixtape, really. I mean, I think it's done a lot for, you know, a lot of different rappers out there. I think his music is really hazy and cloudy, as it would be from the style of music that he was making. It's really good. Some excellent tracks like Peso on this one. Yeah, really aged super well. Still think it's by far the best thing he's put out, actually, in terms of albums and mixtapes. Yeah, I'm keeping this one in the very good tier, because I just think it's really strong. Not quite excellent though. Don't love it. Excellent's going to be for the ones that I absolutely love, and then all timers are like, you know, the best of the best, obviously. And we're at our first one. As I was telling you, we like to keep it exciting on this channel. We had to bring in some recommendations. Avondale Bowling Club, my friends, is going in the all-timer. It's not the best of the decade, and it will probably get bumped down as I add more albums, but the jazz instrumentation, the live feel, the production is just so good. And lyrically, Tom Scott is really overlooked. I think he won something for this in New Zealand, because he is a New Zealand rapper. It's not exactly a rap scene that you know, is thriving and, you know, has like loads of rappers that everyone's aware of, but he did win here in his home country, and I think that's pretty impressive, because he's not that big, he's not that well known, but it just goes to show the impact this album had. Like, anyone that wants to touch on an album, listen to an album that is like super introspective, super important in terms of touching on like working class struggles and things, it's got to be up there for one of the best of the decade. It was so good. It's so underrated, really, in comparison to some of these others. And yeah, the production is just stellar. Maybe the first hot take here. Many to come, I'm sure. But Big Crit, man, I don't get the hype for this album. I never did. I never really got it. There were some good tracks on it, don't get me wrong. There's gonna be. It's like a double album with 2 discs of loads of tracks. There's going to be good songs in there because Big Crit has it in him to put out good material, obviously. This ain't an attack on him as a rapper because he's good. But this album for me was just like so long, it dragged, so many mediocre cuts in this as well. I just think the way people were acting like it was some kind of southern rap classic, I just didn't get it. I really didn't get it. Let's move on though, because I need to talk about the Saturation trilogy, because this is one of the biggest flip-flops I think I've ever had. I loved Saturation 1 when it first came out, right? But like, I just don't get it anymore. I went back to it not too long ago, and the vocals and the modulation that was coming through and the beats sound so dated, like so dated, insanely dated. I think Brockhampton, what they were representing at the time, this kind of diverse mix of misfits coming together in the way that they did, was so exciting. And they did drop bangers. There's some good tracks on this one, you know, Gold is good. And everything about what they were doing, I just think was super exciting, especially if you were young, especially if you were like teens, early 20s like I was. There was just something really, really fun about what they were doing. But once that sort of flash in the pan moment started to die down, and obviously the Amir Van stuff was coming out as well, it really started to just sink for me. And I just went back to some of these songs and I just found the vocals annoying. I didn't think the rapping was that great either, actually. I just thought what I was enjoying initially just really fell flat. So Saturation 1 is aged terribly. It's got to be in the bad tier for me. I'm going to put Saturation 2 in decent though. Not one I'm really that excited for. There's some great tracks on it. You know, I really like one of them was my song of the year. I would never have a song of the year from this album anymore. But yeah, there was I can't even remember the track's name. That's really bad. That goes to show how much time's changed. But anyway, it was fun. It was good. Again, though, still think some of the moments on it weren't that strong. But I'm going to put Saturation 3 in very good, because as much as I have flip-flopped on them as a group, and as much as I have decided that I don't really care for them that much anymore, this album is actually really, really tight, because I think what they were doing on the first two Saturations got really, really honed in and really, really just solidified on this one. You know, the vocals were really good. There were some really, really striking melodies. Kevin was coming through like crazy on this one. Matt as well was fantastic on some of these tracks. Just lots and lots of earwormy melodies that were coming through. The atmosphere of some of the tracks was just really vibey. Like, I just think what they were doing on this one just kind of encapsulated everything they'd done up until this point, and it was just well made and well executed. And I think they kind of came into their own by this point, because the first two they were still kind of getting to grips with things, and I think this was the one where they just actually nailed it. So yeah, a rare example of where the third thing in a trilogy is the best. Sweet is a song I couldn't remember. Why couldn't I remember the name of that? Anyway, Sweet is a good track from Saturation 2. I don't know how I didn't remember that. Yeah, we're going in the mid here for Chance the Rapper. You know when people were talking about how bad The Big Day was, which it was really bad, and everyone was like, Chance's voice is getting so annoying. His voice was always annoying. I didn't get that criticism when that album came out. Because yeah, I know the lyrics were cringe about singing about his wife and things, blah, 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 blah. Not that that's inherently bad, it was just how he was presenting the lyrics that were just really poor. But yeah, his voice was always like that. He annoyed me on this one, he annoyed me on Colouring Book. And yeah, this got to be one of the most hyped up mixtapes that I personally don't think deserve the hype at all, like ever, really. There's lots of great mixtapes from the 2010s, and this ain't one of them for me. And I've got to be honest, man, because the internet, I'm putting that in mid as well. I'm going to put it highest of the mids though, because I appreciate what he was going for. I think I like the scope of it. You know, there's some interesting sort of concepts coming through that I think just wasn't executed all that well. And I still think that Childish Gambino at this point of his career was really, really like hung up on his influences. You know, that 3005 track is a really good track, but it sounds so much like Hold Up by Kendrick Lamar, which is something I never see people talk about. But that to me is just so blatantly obvious that he's trying to be other people. He never really came into his own on this one for me. Again though, I still think the ideas were there, and this is an album I've always wanted to love, but it's just never clicked with me. So it is a bit of a shame. Damn, I've thrown out some crazy hot takes already. This is not going to go down well. Oh, Jesus. But we are putting Atrocity Exhibition at very good. Maybe a hot take again by not having this higher. But for me, I do think by the end, it gets a bit much. And there are other albums on this tier list that you could argue that for too, where, you know, they're getting a bit much and they're a bit intense. And I know some people would probably argue that for some of them. But for me, I just think this one, yeah, it kind of got repetitive with the way he was delivering his vocals on every track. I don't know if many people really agree, so that's why it drops a bit below. But Jesus Christ, some of the beats on this thing, how does he rap over these? It is truly spectacular how he raps over a beat like Ain't It Funny. He is one of the most eclectic and strange rappers out there ever, and yeah, he deserves his flowers for sure. But yeah, I've never loved this one as much as other people. We will get some excellence though, I'm telling you, we will. But Dave dropping right in the mid, man. Dave is going in the mid, because you know what, for as important and as interesting as some of the themes he raps about on this album are, the most important thing to make all of that interesting is your delivery. And Dave has one of the most boring deliveries, not only in UK rap, but in just rap in general at the moment. Like, his delivery is just dead. He does not have an interesting voice to listen to. He drags down the songs. And there's so many other rappers from the UK that are way more engaging and do similar things with the topics that they rap about. Jeshi. I always mention Jeshi because Jeshi is just fantastic. And Dave ain't on that level for me. Alright, as I mentioned with Danny Brown, we got a few now that are going to be thrown in. I think Bottomless Pit is an all-timer, and I think Money Store is excellent. You should go back and watch my ranked video for Death Grips, because I do their whole discography, worst to best. I still stand by that as well, because they've not dropped anything since then. So the entire list is aged as perfectly as I could have hoped. And yeah, for me, just as a spoiler, Bottomless Pit is my favourite one. Just so intense and weird and catchy as hell too. Like, some of these tracks are just so catchy, like it's just ridiculously so. And yeah, Money Store is just an album that pushed boundaries in ways that we've never really seen in hip hop. But I still think including these two in this list is stretching the definition of hip hop a bit, which again is a bit of a debate when it comes to Death Grips. I personally think they're not rap groups, and I don't think they intend to be that way. But in terms of the experimental approach they take, I think you could still argue that there is rap sensibilities coming through. And yeah, they deserve to be this high on this list. Very, very internet take. I'm sure you're going to probably think, oh, of course he thinks Death Grips are that good. But they just are for me. But there are others that'll make it in this list, don't you worry. Taboo, I'll put it highest of the decents to goods. Because I think, again, conceptually there's something there to it that I think is bold. But some of the tracks, man, I never got that Kurt Cobain song. I never got it, man. I do not get what people see in that song, really. But yeah, some of the tracks just aren't that strong for me. There's some great ones, of course. Denzel as a rapper can be very hit and miss for me. Lyrically, I think sometimes he drops some really, really terrible lines. But yeah, that's where I'm going for. If you're reading this, it's too late. Put it at the highest of the mids. Probably one of the hottest takes so far. This is considered like his best one, and I still feel like it's got a lot of Drakeisms in it that I find a bit annoying. He's got some great tracks on this one, you know, Energy's really good. There are some great tracks, but it still drags on for like an hour, and it still has way too many songs, more than it necessarily needs. It still has a lot of annoying Drake bars and still can be quite boring as a rapper sometimes on some of these tracks. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think this one has got all the sauce. I don't think it does. And the title and the album cover are like the corniest thing ever. And it's just only Drake that could be this corny. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Earl Sweatshirt going to go in very good with I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside. That has gone in the wrong one. There we go. And then Some Rap Songs is going in excellent. And you know what? The mixing debates about Some Rap Songs, I've always got, I get it. It's not an album that you can really tune into immediately, and it might take some time to sit down with and unpack a lot of what Earl's saying, and the production's weird and odd, but man, it is just great for me. And I'm looking at the all-time and the excellent category, and this is very nerdy. I do promise you there are going to be some less nerdy albums in these categories, because I know there'll be some like traditional hip-hop heads that may stumble upon this video and are like, how can you put these there, they're trash, man. All right, we gotta talk about Revival, man. This album was just an absolute ball ache to get through, I'm not the first person out there to be telling you that Eminem has fallen off totally, massively, horrendously. But Jesus Christ, some of the features on this album were absolutely dead. Some of the bars on this album are like terrible as well. He hit a low, an all-time low on this album, man. And I do think the two albums, the couple of albums that came after it, weren't quite as bad as some people made them out to be, because they were definitely improvements on Revival. But Revival is just absolute dog shit, man. There is no way to get out of that for me. And yes, Eminem fans, you can love me for this, because Fetty Wap going very good, man. That's right, your boy Eminem did not drop an album as good as Fetty Wap's in the 2010s. You get me, man? He didn't. And Fetty Wap, it's just so much fun. Kind of a bit of a nostalgic rush for me, like tracks like Again, I remember listening to when they first came out and just having a lot of fun with. It's not really lyrical, spiritual, miracle stuff, but it's just a lot of fun. That's about as much as I can say. And we have a string of albums right now that are all going to be all-timers. We're putting them in all-timers. I'm putting Pinata there. I'm putting Dirty Sprite 2 there. And honestly, I'm going to put Future self-titled there. I don't think these are quite as good as Avondale Bowling Club, but they're excellent. They are excellent. And yeah, I love Future. Big fan of Future. I've talked about Future before on this channel, and probably not as much as you may expect me to, considering I'm such a big fan. Again, lyrically, you're not getting a lot here, but Jesus Christ, the style of music that he's going for on these trap beats is just fantastic. His vocals, his approach to rapping is great. It's just all so memorable, and the Future self-titled is his best work for me. This is an underrated album, because everyone knows DS2 is great, right? Or the people that like this kind of music recognize that DS2 is the best of like this era. But now for me, Future self-titled, just bangers, absolute rages, absolute rages from start to end, like ridiculously hard-hitting trap bangers. The beats are harder. The way he's rapping has just got a bit more grrr to it. Love this, man. And yeah, Pinata, I don't know what else to say about Pinata really that everyone else hasn't already said. I do think some of his lyrics at times could be a bit tidier, and I did think this about Bandana 2, which came a few years later. But Pinata, you can't really fault it, man. I mean, the beats, the production, the way he raps, the coolness and the bravado that he comes through in is just unmatched, and yeah, has to be up there with one of the best rap albums of the 2010s. Now we're getting into a bit of an underrated one, super underrated one actually. I'm going to put Back at the House there on excellent. Hemlock Ernst, the guy from Future Islands, that indie pop group, ended up deciding to be a rapper, and he worked with Kenny Segal, and it's not only some of Kenny Segal's best work, but it's some of his best work ever, and I just cannot believe he sold the hell out of this album. This random guy that does synth pop songs for a random indie band just turned out to be a fantastic rapper, and the production is great too. Really love this, man. Please check out Hemlock Ernst, because if you are going to take at least one thing away from this video, let it be known that this is so good. Right, we got to keep going. We got to keep going. Hopsin Bad. What a hot take that is. Hopsin Bad. Can you believe it? The guy who invented college didn't go to college. What a guy. Floss, Injury Reserve. I'm going to put this at the top of the all-timer, man. This is some of the best banging hip-hop music you're ever going to hear. Richie with his hooks, Groggs with his introspective rapping too, and just the way they have so much fun on this project. Floss is an all-timer, one of the best for me of the 2010s, hands down, and my God, the lack of respect that they get. Injury Reserve deserves so much more. And yeah, I'm going to put Live from the Dentist Office at the excellent tier 2. Again, at the top of it. Why won't it move? Why won't it move? This is very close to being an all-timer. In a lot of ways, I kind of want to put it there, but I don't think it's as good as Floss, so maybe just saying it being an all-timer seems a bit wrong. But they, yeah, both amazing projects. Some of the best mixtapes of the 2010s, easily. Forest Hills Drive. I'm going to put this in mid. I just don't really get it with Forest Hills Drive. J. Cole can be a rapper that lacks a punch. Similar to what I was saying about Dave, actually, although he's not as boring as Dave. Yeah, just sometimes doesn't really hook me. Doesn't really, I don't really cling on to much when he's rapping. He's just a bit flat. He's just a bit stale. His lyrics are not that good either a lot of the time. Really not that good. And the tracks are generally just fine. Like, it's just also fine. It's just like the most vanilla music that he puts out there, and yet he's super popular. I don't really get it with J. Cole, I'm not going to lie to you. Jay-Z, though, what a comeback this was. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this here. I really like Jay-Z's 444. I think it was a great statement. I think to come back after some pretty bad albums, honestly, like that Magna Carta album is really terrible. In fact, that would probably go in the awful tier. I haven't included it on this tier list today, but that would probably be awful. I hate that album. Yeah, but 444, coming off the back of the whole Beyonce drama stuff, to come out like this really late in his career. The guy was, pushing like 50 at this point, I think, and still sounding this good, coming out with some really good tracks. Yeah, I'm impressed with 444. Don't think it's quite excellent, though. And it's not as good as some of these other albums, but yeah, I definitely think it's worthy of the praise that it got. Yeah, we're going to put Joey Badass Indecent Good. I want to root for this album so hard because the tracks that are really good are like insanely good. Like some of his best songs ever. Rockabye with Schoolboy Q, so good. And the track Temptation, I think is still his best song ever, honestly. But yeah, I just don't think it all came together. And I think it was quite obviously trying to be like the Kendrick Lamar 2.0. That just never really lived up to that. And yeah, some of the tracks just aren't that great, but I want to root for it because I think what he was trying to do lyrically was really impressive. All My Heroes Are Cornballs. I'm going to put this in very good. And shout out to the person that commented recently acting like I hate Peggy and acting like I'm racist as well, which is kind of wild as hell. Shout out to you, my guy. You were insane and wild. But no, I do really like this one. And I included this one on purpose because I still think it's his best album. So there you go. The production, I think, is really, really smart and clean and really, really forward-thinking, to a point where I think a lot of people have tried being like this in terms of this production. And yeah, I think his rapping still could be better at times, but I really like this project. All right, we're putting K Tempest in an all-timer. Another UK artist that I think you could argue is doing things that we haven't really seen before in terms of rapping and looking at things from a totally unique angle. The poetry infusion, the spoken word infusion that K Tempest has just managed to intertwine with their music is quite incredible. And yeah, I absolutely adore this one. Another one that I included on purpose here just to kind of mention it as a way of going, you know what, it's super overlooked, but Jesus Christ, it's up there with some of the best. A few hot takes on the way though. We had to get Kanye in this video. I'm going to put this one very good. It might be the highest of the very goods, actually. Some amazing songs on this album. Runaway, Power, like it's incredible what Kanye was doing on this album at times. But I'm not going to pretend like I'm not that excited about So Appalled. I'm that excited about the friggin' track with John Legend, which has that awful outro that just isn't funny at all. Like, yeah, there's some great moments on this album, but I still think there's some weaker moments too. I'm not the biggest fan of Gorgeous either. I don't really like Gorgeous that much, to be honest with you. So yeah, for as many all-timer tracks there are on the album, there's some that are just kind of like mid or decent. So it ends up averaging out at like a very good for me. Life of Pablo, I'm going to put in decent. It's alright, I don't know, man. Again, still think the reception this album got was baffling. The way he kept re-releasing stuff and changing things was just annoying, and everyone was trying to be like, the guy's a genius, man. He's doing things we've never seen before. No, he just didn't finish the album. But even still, as an album, there's some really awful tracks on this, to be honest with you. Again, though, like the gap is pretty wide. Like there's some really fantastic stuff, and then there's just some awful stuff. So ends up averaging out. But for me, from the 2010s, Yeezus is the best Kanye album. Yeezus is the best one. Balls to the wall, ridiculous, funny. It's super funny. Like there's some hilarious lines on this album, you know. The croissant line, the Bound 2 track from start to end is just hilarious. Kanye is so self-indulgent by this point, and yet he still manages to make it funny. It still ends up being really, really eclectic and, again, forward-thinking. I'm going to use as a descriptor here, because I guess Kanye was just trying things that a lot of other rappers would never dare to do, and you've got to respect it. And it ends up being really fun, to be honest. All right, we're going into the big boy now. Kendrick Lamar. Oh boy. 3 albums here to talk about. All-timer for Good Kid, Mad City. Don't shout at me, please. Damn is going in mid. And To Pimp a Butterfly, top of the all-timer. Yeah, just incredible stuff. What is there to say about To Pimp a Butterfly that hasn't already been said? But the conversation is well and truly deserving of the reputation that it gets is well and truly earned, for sure. And yeah, Good Kid, Mad City as well. Not too far behind, but I don't think it's quite as good, perhaps, as some of the other ones. Not quite as good as To Pimp a Butterfly, but it's still amazing. And then, Damn, I don't really feel it. People were like, oh, you just don't like it because he's going a bit more commercial. And it had nothing to do with that, because he had commercial success prior to Damn. And yes, I know that tracks weren't quite as big as Humble, for example, but he still had commercial success. He still had commercial appeal. Swimming Pools was massive at the time. It just had nothing to do with that. Just with the hooks on tracks like God, Yeah. I don't really like Loyalty. Like, just a lot of mediocre moments for me, man. Some great moments though. Love Fear, love DNA. But yeah, the album as a whole is not that great. Kids See Ghost. Man, Fantano did something to this album. This would not have been as received as well as it was, I don't think, if it weren't for Fantano giving it a 10. I really don't. I still find it baffling to this day that he gave it a 10, actually. I think just in terms of what he usually says about Kanye, it just didn't really line up with his consistent mentality. But even regardless of all of that, Kids See Ghost is fine. It's alright. There's some great moments. I still think Kid Cudi drags some of the tracks down just through his voice. I think he's not a very good singer. He can be quite annoying to listen to. But the mental health topics that were discussed on this album were like really, really brilliant. And I think more rappers should dare to do it as well. Again, similar with Yeezus, Kanye does have that daring nature, and he is willing to do things like this in ways that other rappers would never do. But yeah, I don't think it came off all that great. I still think there's some pretty weak moments. And yeah, I've got to be honest, man, Lil Uzi Vert, put it in the mid. Put it there. Listen. Let it be known that XO Tour Life is an absolute all-timer of a song. But the rest of it, I didn't really think much of, to be honest. Okay, Lil B next. Lil B is excellent. I'm putting in excellent. This album, for what I was saying before about Big Crit's album running on too long, this is a really long album. I think it's pretty much just about 2 hours. But there are no misses. Every track is an absolute hard-hitting banger. Little B is just rapping ridiculous things. Iron Swag is an absolute epic track. And yeah, for me, it goes there. Lucky as well, pretty underrated this one. Watch Your Back, great album, great trap album. This hazy kind of makes it feel like the sound of the album is totally matching what he's rapping about. It just feels psychedelic and oozes with this weird atmosphere that makes you feel like you're floating. I think Lucky is fantastic, and this is his best project for me. Mavi threw this one in because I thought, you know what, Mavi got some attention for Let the Sun Talk, and I think he deserved it. I think this was a good album. I think the one after is better, but he's still really young, and I still think there's something in what he's doing. I think he could be a very, very good rapper by the end of his career. I think Culture by Migos is influential and has some excellent songs on it, but I think as an overall project, an overall album, I'm going to put it in the mid, because I didn't really feel like it lived up from start to end. Again though, if we had Culture 3, if that was in this list, that would be right at the bottom, because that is terrible. Nas, this is also going in mid. This era of Kanye and everyone hyping up everything he was doing for those weeks that he kept dropping an album that he was either involved in as a rapper or a producer or whatever, it was so funny in hindsight because a lot of it just much of it didn't end up being that good. And Nasir was just so weak as an album, man. Cap shot the gear. Right, gonna put No Name in excellent. I think No Name's Telephone is fantastic. It is a beautiful, welcoming, warm rap album that is so overlooked and underrated. And while No Name isn't really active at the moment with music, I guess, I don't really know what she's doing. I don't think she even knows what she's doing sometimes, but it will never be forgotten how good this project is. It's so bloody lovely. Playboi Carti, maybe a hot take here to put this in very good and this in excellent, but I stand by it because I do love this first Carti mixtape. I really do. I still see a lot of negative opinions about it nowadays because I think a lot of people think he's gotten better since, but I still think this one's great. That ASAP Rocky track is insane, and Location is amazing. Yeah, I really love this one. Still think it's his best, and Dial It is a lot of fun too. Drags on a little bit by the end, but I still think again it's great. Look, either of these really could be an all-timer and it makes sense. I don't think I'm going to put him quite that high, but I do love Carti's music and I think it deserves to be, but they both deserve to be as high as this. I'm going to put Daytona in very good. I think again the reception this one got was a little overblown because I think there's some excellent tracks on it. But I think overall it's just very good. The album cover still annoys me, man. I still think what they did with that was really distasteful, really. But yeah, I think Push was rapping really well on this one. And The Games We Play is one of his best ever songs. So yeah. Layla's Wisdom. Love this album. And over time, it's just grown on me like crazy. Listening to her have so much fun on this album. The perspectives that she comes from are just really interesting. Pay Up is so good. The funky West Coast feel to some of the tracks are great as well. Just an album that I did not respect enough to begin with, but over time, I do think what she was doing here was really strong. And yeah, I've super overlooked it over the years, but I have now come around and realised I was crazy. And Run the Jewels too is as good as it was when it first came out. It really is. Run the Jewels 2 is still a lot of fun. Their best work for me by quite a distance. I think Killer Mike and LP did everything that they did on the first one, but just stepped it up that extra bit and just came out with some super exciting, invigorating, just exhilarating tracks that I think just any rap fan could listen to and then get something out of, because the beats slap hard, the lyrics are super good as well. Yeah, what an album this is. What an achievement that they managed to achieve by coming together and creating this type of music. It's so good. Let's keep the excellence going though, because I want to put Ski Master Slump God in here, which I know is not going to be a take many people will appreciate, but I love Ski Mask on this album, man. It's the reloaded version of You Will Never Regret, which has Catch Me Outside on it, which is one of his best songs, one of my favourite rap songs of the 2010s too, just a lot of fun. And yeah, I think Ski Mask on this one was just really, really quirky and weird and just rapped over some really hard-hitting beats, and it's just a lot of fun. There's nothing really more to say. We've got to keep the awfuls going though, because 6ix9ine, one of the biggest mistakes to happen to music in the 2010s period, honestly. Like, the guy is just so awful, and his personality is just so ugh as well. Aside from the whole controversy that, you know, he ended up getting with like a really young girl, and it just all that disgusting stuff, but just as a personality, this guy is just awful, man. Like that video where he's like, have you ever heard of a Vic Mensa song? Have you ever heard? And it's like, the irony is now that no one even listens to you these days. This guy dropped an album this weekend. Of recording this video, he's dropped an album, and I don't think anyone even knows about it. So there you go. But I do want to mention The Roots. Probably the most surprising one on this list in terms of how high it is, because I don't think many people would have it this high, and people always say Undone is better, which is just crazy. But How I Got Over is just superb, man. From start to end, the production, the rapping, Black Thought is just on another level. And I think, yeah, it for me has always been their best work. I think what they did on this album is just super, super special. And to do it so late in their career just puts Black Thought in the top 10 all time for sure. The fact that I never see him in these lists as well is insane, but the longevity that he's had to keep going and to keep rapping as well as he has up until his 50s, because he dropped an album this year and it was really good too. Just one of a kind, Black Thought. Don't know why he's not mentioned in more lists, but he absolutely is one of the best. Travis Scott next, with Astro World, which is going to be very good. Really grown on me, actually. I did mention this in the video pretty recently, how much it has grown on me. And then Rodeo is an excellent for sure. Love Rodeo. I think what he was doing on that album is super, super influential, groundbreaking for trap as well. Just the haziness as well, and the psychedelic feel that I think ended up inspiring other people on this list. Absolutely. Yeah, love this album. And want to put Tribe just after T-Pap, because Tribe, again for me, like The Roots, getting this far into their career and putting out what I think is their best work. I really do. I think this album from Tribe is superb, and the beats are varied, the features are excellent, the way it feels like they're passing on the torch to a new generation is just so beautiful to me. The humbleness, the lyrics, the sort of Fife Dog kind of I guess homage as well at times. It's just stunning. It's just absolutely stunning. And yeah, we're going to go on to some Tyler next. We've got a few more to go here, so this is coming to an end. I really love Wolf. Oops, that has gone too high, but I do love Wolf. And I love Flower Boy too. I don't love Flower Boy as much as I love Wolf though, because Wolf is, for me, again, watch the video, but Wolf is my favourite Tyler album. Just think it's really cool. I think some lyrics at times are really dated, but I think the varied production just adds so much to this album. And then Flower Boy, just a more revealing album and more mature album from Tyler that nobody really saw coming. And yeah, they're both special albums to me, man. I always wanted to like Big Fish Theory more than I do, but I just don't really get with it. I think the production is super forward-thinking, and there's ideas going on here that I don't think many other rappers, again, would dare to do, like I've said already about Kanye. But I think the execution just leaves a lot to be desired. And the thing is as well is that it's annoying that he didn't stick at this, because I think the reception just put him off because so many people didn't like it and stuff. You know, typical rap heads weren't really feeling it. But I think he could have dropped something better than this if he stuck at it. I think this was a good marker point for, like, oh, this is an interesting direction to go in. But I think the next thing he would have improved on it and it would have been better. But he's just kind of ditched it now. He did drop my favourite album after this, though, the Vince Staples self-titled album. But it is a bit of a shame that he never committed to it, because I think he could have done better than this, you know. I want to put Flockavelli in excellent. I want to put Oofy in excellent as well. I really love Oofy. That has gone in the wrong place again. And yeah, Flockavelli, super influential, hard-hitting, bangers after bangers after bangers. Oofy, more of a nerdy rap album that I think Wiki just has a bit more of a weird vision and has a really weird delivery with his voice. It's my favourite Wiki album by far. Want to put Young Nudie in very good as well with Slimeball. The whole Slimeball series I think was really cool, and yeah, deserves to be mentioned here. And then Barter 6 is my final album on this entire list, and this is going to go in excellent as well. I'm going to put it about there. Love Barter 6. I could have included more Thugger albums on this list, obviously, but kept it to one, and there you go. Here is the list. Now look at this. There is so much in the top tiers here. Because there was just a lot of great rap music in the 2010s. There is no denying it. There is no really debating it. This is a top-heavy list with very little in the bottom tiers. There's quite a bit of mid, I do think, as well. And some of the decent goods as well are kind of almost as big as the mid tier. But mostly, it's positive. Not many bads and awfuls either, although I did skip some, I will say that. I did leave some out. There were some awful albums that I was like, no one really cares about this anymore. There's no point talking about it. There isn't much to say about it now, but it would probably fall into that tier, and the bad as well. But yeah, lots of great stuff. A very positive tier list, this one. Pretty happy with how it's turned out. To Pimp a Butterfly is the top of the list with Tribe and The Roots and Floss, Good Kid, Mad City, Avondale Bowling Club, Future, Death Grips, Pinata and K-Tempest, all not being too far behind, honestly. They're all fantastic. And the excellent tier as well are ones that I go back to regularly. So really, really good stuff here. I do hope you enjoyed this. I hope it hasn't gone on too long for you. I hope you've stuck around to the end to watch this tier list come to life. Please tell me your thoughts on my list here. Well, how would you rank things? Well, you can make it yourself. Click the link in the description. Make it, send it me on Twitter or wherever you want to, and share your thoughts with me. That would be fantastic. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, and goodbye.